What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in once again. Back here, recording this video early Monday morning. I was going to do it Saturday night, but I wanted to wait until we at the very least had the playoff teams, so I could run through some of the players and just give my thoughts. Again, this isn't a hype channel. There won't be a top 5 to buy now. So if that's what you're looking for, there's plenty of other channels that do that. I just want to show you guys the data and just give some thoughts if I were to be investing. But at this point, I'm totally out of it. So I'm not putting my money where my mouth is whatsoever. I decided to step back from this and just see where it goes. I mean, there's too much stuff going on, just like hit after hit after hit, right? You know how it is. All the grading stuff that's been going on with the card companies there, fee increases, closures, stuff at retail with Target, so many things going on. I just decided to step back. So it's a good chance to take a look at some data. So first thing we're going to do is take a look at the hot players over the last 7 days. Jordan Poole, check this out. Optic Holo Raw, Silver Prism Raw cards. I'll show you the graded cards shortly. People are loving Jordan Poole. What's this? 743% return on your money. Started at $2, he's up to $19. Hand over fist, baby. $17 you just came up. I know that it's difficult when you are talking about low dollar figures like this. Obviously, we always want to look at the ROI, the percentages. When we're talking about low dollar figures like this, though, my feeling, and it's something that I'll talk about when it comes to flipping in the playoffs a little bit later in the video, is you really have to have the good fortune of having a stack of these guys sitting on a bunch of Jordan Pooles ahead of time. It's not like you're buying Jordan Pooles. I guess you could. Star stock may be more so. But it's not like you're out there on eBay buying Jordan Pooles at $6, $7, $8, $9 early in the week. They're not even in your hands yet, and then you're going to try to turn around and flip them. It's not really feasible. But for individuals, for the most part, but for individuals who are sitting on a large stack of Jordan Pooles, their ship has come in, so to speak. Zion Williamson seeing a big bump in his raw. Curtis Jones seeing his premier raw taking a big jump. But again, we're talking about a card going from 99 cents to about $4 or $5. Laviska Shenault, love him as a player, so it's good to see his stuff on the rise. Jalen Brown, amazingly enough, his Donruss base raw went out for the year with the injury. Why is his Donruss base up 250%? Now, granted, that's a $4.57 card, according to this, prior to the last 7 days. People are out there just thinking, hey, that's too cheap. Maybe I can grab that up. Sit on it until PSA opens back up. Throw it in there. Maybe have it ready for next year's playoffs. John Morant seeing his raw go up. LeBron optic base raw. LeBron, the 2016 Donruss base raw. You see some Tua Donruss base going up. Anthony Edwards. Jameis Winston, for whatever reason. Andrew Vaughn as well. Frank Thomas. All right, so that's raw. Let's get over and check out, Sabonis. Good to see him on the rise. Definitely having a solid year. I picked up a bunch of his Prism prior to the year, and I flipped those early in the year. Made about 2x, 2.5x on my money on those. But yeah, Sabonis, definitely a good player. Definitely had a solid season for them. They ended up as the 9 seed, so they're playing in the play-in game against the Hornets. Who's not hot? Colin... I can't pronounce this guy's name. 2011 Topps base raw. I don't even know who this guy is. I've never heard of him. What sport does anybody know what sport this guy plays in? What team is he on right now? His Topps base raw, I assume that's some kind of rookie card, went from $6 down to $1. I'd imagine his graded cards would be seeing the same kind of drop. I wonder if it was a situation where individuals were speculating on whomever this guy is. He was going to play well. He did something out there socially. Guys, obviously, I'm kidding. I obviously know who he is. But yeah, to have individuals who were speculating on his stuff, I believe it was more so like late last year. Prices were driving up. I don't think it had anything to do with, and this is just my recollection, I don't think it had anything to do with the potential of him coming back on the field. It was the off-the-field stuff that people were speculating on in terms of driving up the price. People, you see how the market is, it gets crazy, right? So people were just kind of looking for anything. They're looking at any nook and cranny to invest in someone, anyone. Trying to basically say, hey, nobody's looking over here, let me try this. All right, speculative plays, I would say. But you see a Chenault here. His select premier level silver raw, all the way down to $2. Started at $9. A lot of people have been talking about select and how it's been pretty printed into the ground. I'm not in the game right now in terms of trying to flip anything. So it's been nice. Prior to Target doing what it did, it had been nice to be able to go into Target and grab fat packs off the shelves and not have to wait in those lines. As I said in episode 1 of Market Movers Season 1, I'm not somebody who's going to wait in line at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I'll go in at 8 o'clock, 8:30, throw my name on the list. If I get something, I get something. If I don't, no big deal. I leave that to the young bucks. I'm too old to be hanging out in those lines. Aaron Donald, seeing his Chrome base drop from $14 all the way down to $3. Trout, that's a Topps 2020 project. Cam Reddish, you see here, Drew Brees. And this is what I questioned before, because last week there was some Drew Brees cards that were hot, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. He's one of the GOATs, right? He's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Debatable where you put him. Not going to get into all that in terms of numbers, but when a guy retires, it's kind of like, he'll make the Hall, obviously, whenever he's eligible. But if a guy isn't, this is just for me, when there's this period of time where a guy's now out of the league and he's waiting for his Hall of Fame induction, to me it's kind of like this weird area where you're in limbo. He's not far enough away from it yet to where people are appreciating what he did. Generally, people appreciate what these guys have done 5 years, 10 years later, Hall of Fame induction at least. So it's kind of this weird area where I was sitting here and I'm wondering, like, why is this guy's cards going up? It's just me. That was just my thought about it. I wouldn't be buying Drew Brees right now. Maybe 5 or 10 years from now, sure. That being said, when you see his top space raw drop 67% in the course of a week from 136 all the way down to $44, then it's like, well, you know, maybe it's starting to get cheap. Maybe it's starting to get in my wheelhouse to where I take a look. But like I said, I'm not buying anything right now. So we're strictly looking at the data. Kobe, Sekou, or all the hype he was getting. Are you telling me I can get one of his Prism Base Raw for $1? That might be something speculative for next season. Maybe you grab a stack of his stuff. Chase Young, Mosaic Base Raw, also down to $1. Lando Norris, it's Chrome Formula 1. There's some Zion down here, so it's interesting, even though we saw some Zion on the riser side, you see some of his stuff on the decline as well here. So it's a card-by-card basis with players. You can't just assume everything's up for a particular guy. Julius Randle, the year he's having, to go from 40 down to 15, and they're in a first-round series with the Hawks, 4-5 matchup, which should be pretty good. One of those teams is going to move on. Julius Randle, maybe. Maybe if the Knicks move on, maybe we take a look in a week or two and that card's back up. Who knows? But, of course, if they get the boot and Trae Young moves on, then you'd expect to see Trae's prices go on the rise. John Morant, LeBron here, some Jameis Winston. It's funny, right? We see them on the hot side, we see them on the cold side, all right? Some more Ja, there's Trae Young. KG, his PSA 9, Topps base, and he got inducted. What, everybody waited to try to drop their KGs until now? You're telling me that his PSA 9 over 7 days went from 241 to 109? It's crazy, right? All right, let's check out some graded cards now. There he is. Jordan Poole still hot. His Prism Base PSA 10 up 114% in the last 7 days. Who was sitting on a ton of Jordan Pooles waiting to make money on him? That is one hell of a good job speculating if you had some Jordan Poole PSA 10 sitting around. Pete Alonso, Russell Wilson, Tyler Hero. Stuff starting to pick back up. The hit he took, you'd be underwater big time if you purchased some of his stuff at the beginning of this season, like the run-up, or after the bubble. Brandon Clark, I picked up several of his. I think I had 3, but they were the red, white, and blue. Do I have 3? Yeah, I think I have 3 of them. And I paid $107 each, tax included, shipping and everything. Good to see them on the rise. They're up to $48. So my $107 is now worth $48. And that's after a 61% increase. Andrew Vaughn, Aristides Aquino. See Trae Young's 2019 Prism-based PSA 10. Second year card, obviously, from $26 to $37. Carr, his Upper Deck Young Guns Hockey, PSA 10, up 38% on the week from $415 to $575. Then you see some Giannis, but just totally random cards like a Giannis 2018, right? So when you're looking through this, if you have this on your own, you definitely want to sort through by year and look at his 2013 stuff, maybe his 2014 stuff. Keston Hiura, rising. I don't know why he's on the rise. I'm pretty sure that I heard that they demoted him, sent him down to the minors. He stunk last year, but the year prior he was really good. And his PSA 10s were going for 60, 70, 80 bucks. They were quick flips. You could send it off, pay $9, $10, $11, $12 to get it graded. Flip that bad boy and make 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks. It's how quick things change, right? Eric Paschal, Prism-based PSA 10, up 37%. LaMelo Ball, Prism Draft Picks base, PSA 10. It's up to $200 for a Draft Picks PSA 10. Tough sell. I don't know if I'm buying. Let's take a look at some of the cold individuals. See Trae Young, Eloy, obviously, and LeBron. As I was just saying, you can't take a look at one player and assume all of his stuff is going up. Take a look at some LeBron stuff here a little bit later. They're slotted for the 7-8 playing game right now against the Warriors. And that's something I'm kind of wondering is, last year after they won the championship, he and AD's cards really took a dive. This year, are people perhaps sleeping on them in terms of all of his cards? Obviously, you are talking more so about the rookies, the 2003, and then the 2012 for Anthony Davis. But are people sleeping on them this year? If they come out of nowhere, they're getting healthy, they've won 5 in a row. If they come out of nowhere, and it's crazy to think the defending champs would come out of nowhere, but if they go on a run, would that be a time where you would see his cards shoot back up? Instead of declining after the finals, would you see an increase because the title isn't expected this year? Whereas last year, after the Bucks got knocked out and the Clippers got knocked out, I think everybody kind of assumed the title was theirs for the taking. See Carmelo's 2012. Dante DiVincenzo's rookie is dropping as well. Luka going down, that's another one there. And a great rematch from last year. The series that we didn't get to see last year, right? The Unicorn's healthy, so we've got the 4-5 matchup with the Clippers. Somebody's moving on to potentially face Utah or the number 8 seed, whomever that may be. But somebody's winning that series. Luka and the Unicorn, Kawhi and Paul George. Somebody's moving on to round 2. Dallas has been pretty hot. They got blown away by Minnesota on the last night of the season, but they still wrapped up the number 5 seed, and the Clippers have just been chilling. Like the last 2 games against Houston and OKC, they rested George and Kawhi Leonard. They didn't seem to be too concerned about seeding because they could have easily had the number 3 seed. Denver kind of backdoored into that when the Clippers rested their starters. Of course, the Clippers probably didn't think they were going to lose to Houston and OKC, but all right, Lonnie Walker on the decline. Shohei Ohtani. Interesting. I haven't seen anything in terms of his production dipping. Perhaps just some profit taking there. His Chrome update base down from 273 down to 195. A Michael Jordan Hoops All-Star PSA 10 down from 271 to 194. Jamal Murray continues his slide down from 143 to 105. And he's a guy, obviously, with his injury that it would be something where you'd have to be feeling really comfortable having your money tied up long-term in somebody, because is he even going to play next year? That's a question. It'd most likely be late in the season. Would he be able to get up to speed for a playoff run in 2022 for the Nuggets? Ken Griffey Jr.'s Fleer-based PSA 10 rookie drops from 229 to 175. Cameron Johnson here. Boble. Wander Franco. Baker Mayfield seeing some decline. Interesting. Football's been generally on the rise, or flat to on the rise the last couple months. Interesting to see Baker taking a bit of a dive there. When I saw LaMelo's card rising over the last 7 days, I was curious. So I wanted to run something just with him. This is PSA 10 here. And this is over the last 30 days. That same Prism Draft Picks card in PSA 10 that's up over the last 7 days is actually down over the last 30. It started at 219. Now it's down to 200. But you see here, the chart from earlier, his card went then from 219 down to 146. 7 days ago. Now it's back up to $200. Obviously, that has to do with him coming back. They slid all the way down to the 10 spot. Can they beat Indiana? Can they beat either the Boston or Washington Wizards? Loser? It's not out of the realm of possibility. Would you put your money on it? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, even if they did, they'd slide into an 8 seed and a matchup with Philadelphia. Obviously, a lot of people would want to see him. Fresh face, new player to the league. They'd love seeing him. John Morant, somebody like that in a playoff series. If you're out there as a card speculator, you'd probably rather see LaMelo Ball in a playoff series than Russell Westbrook or Bradley Beal. Even though those are two guys that are really established, it's just what's hot now, right? And it's LaMelo Ball. But getting back to his last 30, though, you see his Prism base is actually up 12%. Again, we're looking at the last 30 days. PSA 10s, his Prism base, PSA 10, up from 812 to 915. That is the only PSA 10 of his that is up, and that's over the last 30 days. You can run shorter charts, obviously, and let's do that. Let's take a look at the last 14. So over the last 14, we've only got 2 data points. We've got the Prism Draft Picks base PSA 10, which is up 59%, and his Hoops base PSA 10, which is on the decline, down 11% from 407 to 360. I was kind of cracking up when I saw, what was it? I think it was an SGC 10. And this was several weeks ago. I believe it was an SGC. It could have been a PSA, but it was a 10 and it went for $300 something. And I'm like, wow, $300 some odd dollars for a LaMelo Ball. But obviously that had to do more with supply and demand, right? With, as I said, the grading card companies doing what they've done over the past month or two. Last 14 days, Hoops base SGC 10 on the decline from 130 down to about 120, down about 8%. So perhaps it was a PSA 10 that I saw. And again, this was maybe 3 to 4 weeks ago. Somebody had it on their channel. I can't recall what I was watching. I swear that it was an SGC 10 that went for over $300. That's why I was kind of busting up. I was like, really? 300 something bucks for LaMelo SGC 10? I don't know. No hate on LaMelo, but SGC 10. With the Hall of Fame induction having just gone on, I was thinking about Kobe, obviously. Decided to take a look at his last 7 days, and I wanted to see if there was any kind of run-up, and I think maybe I'll try to revisit this in another week just to see what happens. Is there legs to this? Or was it just kind of the one, you know, the nostalgia, the warm, feely fuzzies that comes with the ceremony, the speech, and everything like that. The throwback, the people, the memories they have. Obviously, if you're from that era and you were a fan of his, then you know what I'm talking about. You kind of get the idea of what I'm getting at. But you see here is Topps Base BGS 8.5, leading the way up 42%. 2008 Topps Base PSA 9. A lot of 2008 stuff, a lot of random. Let's get into it here, though. Topps Base BGS 9, up 2%. But other than that, not much. Everything's down to flat. His Topps Base PSA 7, pretty flat. Let's see if there's anything else here of interest. His base PSA 9 down 8%. Base PSA 9 down 10%. His ending average, 841. So it went from 940 to 841. And I just happened to be looking at some auctions tonight. And I saw one end at 770. And then there was another one that was at 790. But it still had some time to go. But the one I just happened to be watching, right then, as I was doing research for this, I typed it in. I was like, oh, what's a base 9 going for right now? And there was one ending in 2 minutes. So I watched that, and it ended at 770. Interesting. So we'll see how the data is reflected in the weeks ahead based on that sale. Back, presumably healthy. We'll see how that holds up. We'll obviously see what happens in terms of what seed the Lakers get if they do win a game. They've got the Warriors first. If they fail there, then obviously they would get the Grizzlies Spurs winner. But I was curious over the last 7 days, with LeBron coming back, if he was seeing a bump in any kind of his stuff. So you got some raw stuff here, some 2019 optic, some 2016 optic, up a couple 100%. It's no small amount. His Topps Base raw more than doubled in the last 7 days, from $407 to $910. You see here, there's not a ton of sales though, right? Obviously, when you have a low population, you get into a situation where a couple auctions can really swing create these dramatic price movements. Here's a PSA 10 2018 Prism Silver, up 28% from 186 to 240. His Slam Hollow Raw, up 25%. Let's look at some PSA graded cards and see if there's anything there. Looks like we've only got a few data points. His Silver PSA 10, as I previously mentioned. His Optic Base PSA 10. Mosaic PSA 10. All of those are up a little bit. The Optic and the Mosaic up about 8%. His Revolution Base PSA 10 up about 4%. So not too much going on there. Hall of Fame class for 2021. I actually took a look at Chris Webber. Didn't see any of his stuff there. Ben Wallace, didn't see any of his stuff there. Paul Pierce, decided to pass on looking at his stuff. I still got those lingering visions of that recent video of his that came out. It's pretty funny. And getting fired by ESPN. I decided to take a look at Chris Bosh, and I had to go back 180 days to actually find some data of his. You see the last 7 days, nada. Last 14 days, nada. Last 30, last 60. You get it right. You don't want me to do it again, right? So over the last 80 days, you saw his Chrome Base PSA 10 rise 44% from $243 to $345 on 50 sales. I was wondering about, they always say, okay, well, the Hall of Fame bump isn't really that much because generally we know what players are going to make it and when. And that's leading up to the ceremony, right? Like people are always asking, oh, well, what about Kobe? What about Tim Duncan? What about Kevin Garnett? Generally, you would see their rises happen already. You don't expect to see something happen the day of the ceremony, right? Something drastic that shifts the market 20, 30, 40%. But if there's an announcement, say for this new class, the 2021 class, the gentleman I just mentioned, will we see a week from now if we revisit this? Paul Pierce, Bosh, will we see some Ben Wallace? Will we see some Weber data that shows drastic increases on those prices? So that's something to think about, something to keep in mind. Here's the Chris Bosh chart here. I ran this. You see it started off, and I ran this back 6 months. You see it started off here at it was a $243 card. It actually spiked all the way up to $1,250 in March. And this was the height of the craziness, right? All of this time frame in here, but you're telling me that this card went from a $243 card to a $1,250 card in a matter of months, and then in the last 2 months, down from $1,250 all the way back down to $350. If you were sitting on some Bosh, I hope you sold it in here, and you weren't here waiting and sitting on it, waiting. $1,250 all the way down to $350. If we run that chart back, though, let's run the chart from, let's take the height of it around February 17th. Percentage-wise, it's reflected in what I was saying, right? You see this drastic swing here, up 40%, up 50%, then down, then back up, almost doubling at that period in time in March, and then sliding all the way back, almost down 50%. And that decrease in 50% is just from that start date here in February to today. I wanted to just run some current charts. Take a look at some players that are going to be in the playoffs, thinking about the different series, just the ones we know so far that are set. Kawhi Leonard, taking a look here at his Prism Base PSA 10 and his BGS 9.5. And I ran these back to the start of the season. You see his PSA 10 was a little bit over $2,100, and his BGS 9.5 was about $850. So $2,100, $850. You saw this increase, huge increase, all the way up to a $3,700 card. The BGS 9 went all the way up, doubled, both of them, up to $1,788, but you've seen this decline ever since, to where his car is actually cheaper now than it was at the start of the season, but that's not telling you something that you likely don't know, because we've seen that with most players. Most players have seen a decrease from that run-up at the beginning of the season to now. So it makes me wonder what would happen for people sitting on Kawhi's cards if they do win that series against Dallas. I took a look at a couple Giannis cards. I looked at his Fleer Retro, his Hoops base, and his Prism base, and this was just 3 months worth of data we're looking at here. You see specifically, as it pertains to his Prism base PSA 10, it's at $3,600. Currently, down 26%, all the way down to $2,653. So basically, you would have lost $1,000 on the card if you were sitting on it. Or if you purchased it back in here, then you'd be looking at a $1,000 loss. People seem to not have much confidence in him. We'll say that. People don't seem to have much confidence in him or the Bucks. And that being said, though, they ended up in the 3-6 matchup with the Heat. And you know what they did to them last year, so we'll see if Giannis can get his revenge. Decided I wanted to take a look at Damien Lillard as well because of their 3-6 matchup against the Nuggets. Nuggets haven't been playing the greatest. Obviously, when Murray went down, that changed the whole course of their season. That even though they ended up in the number 3 seed, I don't think that Portland is really too scared of having to face them, especially since they just kicked their butt on the last night of the regular season. So if you're Portland, I'm not saying they're going to win that matchup, but if you're Portland, I think you feel pretty confident heading into that series facing the Nuggets. But taking a look at Damien Lillard, you see here, his Prism-based PSA 10 at the start of the season was around $1,500. Now we're looking at a card that's even under $1,000. So you've seen his card go from $1,500 to $1,000 just over the past 3 months. Take a look at his Select base. Select's been, and as you know if you've been keeping up with the markets, Prism's fallen out of favor with collectors. His Select was at $675 to start the year. His Select was at $675 at the start of February. And now it's right about the same. It's about $750. So while Prism's really hit the decline, Select's come up a lot, where you've seen a lot of Select cards maintain or gain value in season, while Prism's down 10, 20, 30, 40% for a lot of these players. And you see his Hoops as well, up 15% during that same time frame, but yet Prism's down 26%. Markets shift, right? Donovan Mitchell, I talked about him in my last video. Just wanted to revisit him and see if anything's happened with him the last 7 days. It looks like his Prism-based PSA 10 7 days ago was $345. He's holding steady. His Optic base is actually up 2% over the past 7 days. People have to be sitting out there wondering about the Jazz. They locked up the number 1 seed, but we haven't seen Mitchell in so long. Is he somebody that people would hitch their wagon to, thinking he's just magically going to come back and turn it back on? What if they get into a matchup with the Lakers? Say the Lakers lose to the Warriors and beat the Grizzlies or Spurs. What if you're the number 1 seed and you end up having to face the Lakers or the Warriors or Grizzlies and Donovan Mitchell's not 100%? Something I speculated in my last video. But is this something that people want to take a flyer on, that maybe he comes back healthy and Utah makes a deep run? All right, 2 more here. Michael Porter Jr. took a look at his Mosaic, his Optic, and his Prism base. These are all PSA 10. Let's look at the price change percentages. And this was just over the past 3 months as well. You see over the past few months, his Mosaic's been up 128%, his Prism up 31%, and his Optic up pretty big as well, about 76%. Let's take a look, though, at a shorter time frame. You've seen that he's had a spike here. Let's take a look at the last 2 months. You see his Optic is still up. His Prism and his Mosaic are actually in the red. Let's take a look at the last month. I'm getting even more curious here about the data. There you go. Everything's in the red. So that time frame from February to March, he saw those huge increases. But ever since then, he's down roughly about 20% on his Prism and his Optic. And his Mosaic's down roughly about 5%. That's the great thing about these charts, is you can see them over time. You might take a look at a chart and somebody's telling you, oh yeah, Michael Porter, he's up 100% over the last 3 months. Well, okay, that's cool, but what about the last 7 days? What about the last 14 days or month? All right, last one. All right, we're taking a look here at Devon Booker. Same story, 3 months, down 22% on his Prism base and down 35% on his Donruss base. There's no information there for his Revolution. Here you see it in percentage increase or decrease form. Let's take a look at something a little bit shorter, though. Just the past month. You see his Donruss base is almost flat, and his Prism is down about 12%-ish. Another guy I was just thinking of in terms of, they're looking at, let's say the Lakers win that 7-8 game, they're looking at a first-round matchup with the Lakers. So as I said, imagine you're going along all season long, you play well, you get the number 2 seed. Your reward, you get a team that was banged up most of the year and is getting healthy at the right time. Would the Lakers be concerned about the Suns? Will they just kick their butt? several days ago without LeBron even in the lineup. So that's a situation where if you're the Lakers and you end up as the 7 or 8, are you really sweating Utah with Mitchell coming back off of an injury? Are you sweating Phoenix when you know you just kicked their butts 5 days ago without LeBron? Again, these are just things I would think about if I was investing. But let's say that there is this great series. Let's say they draw the Lakers or the Warriors, and there's this great 7-game series, something where Devon Booker hits a game winner in the final game, sends them on to the next round. Maybe they go on a run and take on the Nuggets Blazers series winner. Does he start to see an increase in his value? So when we revisit these in a week, we'll take a look at a lot of these same players. Or actually, we'll take a look at several of these players, but we'll take a look at some new players as well. Ones that have managed to pop off. Granted, we're not going to have many games worth of data in these series, but we'll at least have the play-in games, and we might have 1 or 2 games of those series to kind of see if there's any movement in any players, if any player hits a game-winning shot, anything big like that that really sends their prices headed up. But flippers, it's a crazy game out there. It's not something I could do, but as I said at the beginning of the video when I was talking about Jordan Poole, it's kind of like you seem to have had to have major play on these guys and accumulated them a month, 2 months ago, where you're waiting for that right moment for them to pop off, and you can see a 10, 20, 30% increase in value overnight. That's just on the flipper side. Collectors, obviously totally something different. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. That's all I got for this video. I'll be back in another week or so with some more video on participants in this year's NBA playoffs. Again, as I said in my last video and all videos, if you have any requests, just put them below. Any charts you want to see, just name the player and put them below, and I'll hook it up for you guys. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.